found them perfect for this undercover job. Their task was to find answers to questions like the exact location of Tibet's capital Lhasa, the seat of the Dalai Lama, along with numerous other geographical details of the country that were still missing on the world map. Nain Singh now scoured his brain for an answer that would drive suspicion from the official's mind. "Huzur," he said, using his most winning tone, "we had come to trade in Kathmandu. We thought we could go on to Tibet to purchase horses, and of course, worship at the great shrine in Lhasa." "A likely tale," the man sneered. "Search their baggage," he commanded his men. Nain Singh's fingers fluttered over the prayer beads in the sleeve of his other hand as the two guards flung their boxes open and rummaged through them. He avoided meeting his cousin's gaze. From the corner of his eye, he could see Mani's jaw tensing and his face turning pale. This was the second time their baggage was being searched. Yesterday, at the customs post of Tesuria in Nepal, they had been fortunate. The secret compartments in which their sextants and other survey instruments were hidden went undetected. Would their luck continue to hold? To still the troublesome thoughts roving in his head, he prattled on. "Have you been posted here long, Sahib? You're a long way from home, too." The official ignored him, keeping his eyes fixed on the guards as they examined each and everything in the boxes. Then he clicked his tongue irritably as one of the men looked up, shaking his head. "We are honest men, Sahib." Nain Singh's smile was genuine now. The official's glance was as chilly as the wind. "This doesn't mean that I give you permission to go." "But," Mani began, "I've already told you, you are not allowed to cross into Tibet. I'm going to send word to the governor of Kirong. Only if he permits will I let you go. In the meantime, you will remain here. And don't you dare try to sneak off." "Why would we do that?" Nain Singh made an effort to hold on to his smile. "It's obvious that you're very eager to get across the border, whatever the reason may be," the man snapped. "First deposit 5 rupees as advance toll tax." With a sigh, Nain Singh counted out the money. They'd parted with 4 rupees at the last checkpoint. Mani was already turning away, gesturing to their 4 attendants to load the luggage back on the mules accompanying them. Another day gone. He drove a fist into his palm as Nain Singh approached him. "It's been more than 3 months since we left Dehradun, and we are still stuck on this side of the border. We've set ourselves an impossible task." "At least they missed our stuff," Nain Singh whispered. The secret compartment was well made. Let's pray that the governor agrees. This compartment held 2 large sextants, 2 box sextants, a prismatic and a pocket compass, a thermometer, a pocket chronometer, and a watch, along with other tools, all essential equipment for this task. There was, however, a real reason for Mani to feel despondent. Their first attempt to enter Tibet from their native Kumaon via the route to the holy lake Mansarovar had not worked out. But Nain Singh and Mani had run into some men from their region who had been robbed while trading in western Tibet. When they learnt that the 2 of them had plans to travel to Lhasa, they asked them to act as their wakils or agents and try to get some compensation from the government officials at Lhasa. Captain Thomas George Montgomery, the Englishman in charge of their mission, thought this would make a plausible excuse to travel there. He was the one who had taught them all the techniques of mapping land at the Great Trigonometrical Survey in Dehradun. When they returned to Dehradun unsuccessful, he suggested that they try to get in through Nepal. Nain and Mani had arrived in Kathmandu on 13 March and made inquiries about the best way to get to Lhasa. But people informed them that the commonly used route through Nilam or Kuti was impassable at the time of the year because of heavy snowfall. The small town of Kirong would be a better alternative, and now it appeared that this plan might not work either. The day dragged on without any reply from the governor. Impatient to get moving, the next morning they tried to soften the official with gifts, but he remained implacable. Then, at midday on 30th March, he summoned them. The cousins rushed there immediately. "The letter has come," the customs man said. "I will read it out to you." Nain Singh hugged his optimism close, ignoring the man's stony expression. However, the letter dashed all his hopes to the ground. The governor forbade them to travel to Lhasa, saying this was not the regular route. It was via Kuti. And if they were truly Busheris, they would have crossed through Lake Mansarovar. "You must turn back at once." The official's eyes had a malignant gleam. "And what about the toll you took in?"